Hey everyone, it's Vani and welcome back to Positivity Voice livestream, where we dive into stories of purpose, resiliency, and motivation, and of course, positivity. This is 5 years going strong, and I'm so excited to continue this live stream series with today's guest, Kayla Myers. Kayla is someone who blends science, compassion, and presence in everything she does. She's a licensed mental health counselor associate with a dual master graduate degree in clinical mental health counseling and sports and exercise psychology. She's the current Miss White River and the visionary behind #ChooseHealth. I'm super excited to talk with Kayla today, and I can't wait to get started. So we'll wait a few minutes for Kayla to join on and we'll get started. But I hope everybody has been having a wonderful day and a wonderful Mother's Day. I know that that's something super special and hope you're celebrating all that you can with your mom. Hello. Let's see if we can add her on. Hi, Gabby. Thank you for joining. We'll get started in a few minutes. We're going to... Hi, Kayla.
Are you able to hear me?
I am able to hear you. How are you?
I am good. Sorry, it's windy and I'm outside. I accidentally left my keys in the photographer's car, so we had to
Oh
pivot.
no! Oh my goodness! Well, you look gorgeous, and I think the wind is just helping you. Honestly, it's blowing and giving you an amazing blowout look. So I love it.
Amazing. Well, I am so excited to get to talk with you, and I see we already have some friends joining.
I'm so excited to talk with you too. I want to know how your photo shoot was. So before we dive in.
It was amazing. So I'm going to give you all the advice that if you ever see giveaways on Instagrams, enter them, because I have won 2 photo shoots now, and this one was with Amanda Matthews Photography. I got a free tan with it by Tan It by Janet. She's wonderful. So that was just lovely. And I also had a makeover done this morning for them. So it has just...
Oh no! I think it's frozen. You're back.
I got kicked out, but we're good.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back. Well, that sounds like a super cool opportunity and love the giveaways. Honestly, like I will enter every single one because you never know. You never know.
Yes, absolutely. You got to manifest the good things coming your
Yes.
way.
Yes, I love that. And you get some extra photos too now. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited to talk to you and all of your incredible listeners. And hopefully everyone will feel amazing owning the room, even if you have to do it in a, Starbucks, beautiful outdoorsy, cover girl breeze kind of day.
Yes, I love it. And I think, that's part of it, right? Being adaptable and, no matter where you are, owning the room. So I'm excited to delve into
Absolutely.
that topic today. But before we get started, I would love for you to introduce yourself to everyone who's listening.
Fantastic. Well, yes, I have just been yapping because I'm the professional yapper over here without introducing myself formally. My name is Kayla Myers. I am currently holding the title of Miss White River in the Miss Indiana Scholarship Program, but it's not my first rodeo. I've been involved with Miss America for, gosh, 8 years now, so it has
Wow.
been a beautiful journey from not being able to speak and absolutely not even knowing how to walk into a room and take up space to now feeling truly confident in who I am. So I am so ecstatic to talk to you. And outside of pageants, I promise there's also some science and evidence-based backgrounds behind what I tell you. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor associate, and I'm a professor of exercise psychology. I'm a certified mental performance consultant, which is a mouthful and pretty much just means that I love to help people feel confident and thrive in their spaces, whether it's athletes, pageant women, performers, or CEOs.
That's amazing. So many incredible accomplishments. I love to hear it. And you recently got certified in mental health counseling or consulting, as you mentioned, and you wear so many different hats. I mean, as a pageant girl, as an advocate, and also as a counselor as well. And so, what was sort of, I'd love to learn about that turning point for you that decided, okay, this is what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah, so it wasn't linear, which is my number one thing because we tell students, especially in high school, pick your job, this is your career. And that's really not how reality works. Oftentimes, I was dead set when I was a little girl, I was going to be a fashion designer. And I mean, I guess pageants gave me the taste for fashion still. Um, but then I actually went to college for exercise science. So I really thought I was just going to be in the exercise space. I wanted to open my own gym. I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And as I got into it, I loved exercise science, but I realized that it's not just like exercise alone. That's important. But we also need nutrition. So, of course, I added on a nutrition minor. We need psychology. So I added on that. And I started to realize I love this holistic perspective. And the reason I fell in love with psychology, I came across what's called positive psychology. And it's the idea of let's get away from this old medical model we used to use, which is essentially let's make sure people don't have diseases and they're not dying, which is like very gruesome when we think about it. And positive psychology is not just, you know, toxic positivity and we're all happy. It's let's help people thrive and flourish. So I went down the route of counseling and I fell in love with sports psychology, which branches off of positive psychology. So ultimately, my mission where I'm at right now is I work as a counselor and I help people thrive and flourish and not just not struggle with mental health, but find their best lives. And through pageants, because that helped me find my best life, my long-term mission is to open up an LLC where I can help pageant women thrive and flourish with my background and even step outside of pageantry and just be confident in their spaces. So I wear a lot of hats, but ultimately they all come back to health and empowerment.
That's awesome. And I believe that your overall CSI is about choosing health as well. And so that aligns really well with what you do. And I think when people think about health in general, like you said, like they don't realize that there's so many different intricacies. It's not just about physical health, but there's so much that goes into it. And so for you, you know, how do you define that in whatever you do in your, I guess, lifestyle, but also as a job and also in all these different facets that you have.
Girl, yes, I'm like snapping my fingers that health is not just this small thing that society makes us think it lives in this box. And the box that society tells us is it's how your body looks, which I'm going to tangent off. 50% of your body is genetics. Your body does not mean you are healthy or unhealthy. There are so many factors. So that's the biggest misconception. And then that you have to count your calories and only eat certain foods, and some foods are good or bad. I will never use those words as a nutrition coach. And that you have to just go to the gym and run on a treadmill or lift weights. And I want to throw that out the window. All of those things exist, but that's not the only box. The box is much bigger than that of what health is. And I learned this at a really young age. I actually found out how interconnected mental and physical health are, and our society likes to separate them. But when I was a lot younger, it was around fifth grade, I got really sick mysteriously, and doctors had no idea what was going on. They tested me for just about everything, and I was going across the state to figure out what was wrong. I got pulled out of school for about a year and a half. So imagine, fifth grader missing all of that crucial school. I
Yeah.
had someone come out 2 to 3 times a week for homebound instruction, but it wasn't adequate. And eventually, one holistic doctor, and this doctor changed the trajectory of my life. This holistic doctor recommended counseling, which everyone else would be like, well, something's physically wrong, so why would we go to a counselor? But by going to counseling, I shared a lot of trauma that I had endured in my childhood. And what a lot of people don't realize is that mentally, the trauma we go through, our body holds on to that and it affects our physical health to a point where I was struggling to be able to get up out of bed. I was so sick with my stomachs, my head. I just was so fatigued. And by talking about my trauma and processing that with a counselor, my body began to heal. So that's why I developed a holistic health platform called Choose Health, as you mentioned. And in that platform, I have 5 pillars because I like to just have everything numerated out. And I like to make them a little fun. So it's not just like physical activity because that would be boring. So we call it joyful movement. So it's more than just, going to the gym. It can be gardening. I love pickleball. I love doing all these stuff. Yes, pickleball queens. So that's my first pillar of health. And then we have balanced nutrition. And the balance is key because it's not perfect, not good or bad. It's eating a balance mindfully of what our body needs. We also have then restorative sleep. That's the one I struggled a lot with during grad school, and I'm excelling much more now. And then it's mindful mental health, and I mentioned the mental health being already so important to me. And the last one we often forget about, and that's avoiding risky behaviors. So with kiddos, it's let's wear a helmet, let's wear a seatbelt, let's not text and drive. Let's be aware of practices that are safe for sex and intimacy. There's so many elements of what that looks like. And sometimes our society labels those as too taboo to talk about with health, but it doesn't negate that that's all holistic health. So that's kind of the breakdown of health and where my passion emerged from.
I love that. And I think it's so incredible that you have these different pillars because, it really is so much more than just going to the gym and working out. It's, every part of your life that adds to your overall health. And especially because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's, all about not just our physical health, but also our mental health. What would you say to somebody who wants to take one action to choose health this month?
Mm. Well, the number one thing is you just heard me list out all 5 pillars, and this is not New Year's resolution. We are not trying to be perfect. Do not try to tackle all 5 at once. And I think that's the biggest mistake that our society makes. We think we have to make these massive and monumental changes, and we don't have to do everything all at once. That's a lot of pressure, and that's probably not going to be sustainable. So, what I challenge you to do is reflect on one of these 2 things. What is either easiest for me to start right now so we can get momentum building, or what is the biggest need I have right now? So I can share, I mentioned sleep was a struggle for me. When I was in grad school, I was writing a thesis on the impact of what we call biosound technology. It's about meditation. It's supposed to improve sleep and stuff like that. So I'm researching on sleep, right? And it's like 3, 4 a.m. and I'm just grinding on this thesis paper about how not sleeping is going to give me diseases or I'm going to die earlier. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so hypocritical, right? And I leaned into sleep. So it wasn't even a lot. I didn't have to get a perfect sleep schedule. It was, I'm just going to get off my phone 30 minutes before bed. I'm going to dim my lights. I'm going to start to set a timer. That way it goes off at 10 o'clock and tells me, let's start going to bed. So take one small step for you. If you want to be active, just go for a walk. It doesn't have to be something life changing that we do. If you want to be a little healthier, let's just start drinking water. And maybe it's I have it conveniently here, but I have something that every time I check my phone or my email, I take a sip of water. So do something small and your habits compound on each other. And that's where progress comes from. So do not strive for perfect, just strive to be consistent and to start.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I think it's so important, like you said, taking small steps. Because if you try to change your health overnight, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's the baby steps to get to where you want to go and hopefully lead that healthy life for sure.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, girl. I'm so happy you asked about that. And since it's Mental Health Awareness Month, it can just be this is my balanced nutrition. Getting yourself a small treat, that
Love
counts
it.
too.
Oh, wait, is that the smallest size at Starbucks? Or is it a
Okay,
tall?
so this
A
is
short?
embarrassing. It's a tall because I never know how their sizes work, so the tall is the only one I know.
It looks like the short. They used to have like a very, very small. Maybe it's just because it's on a screen. I thought it's like the really tiny cups that they have because they used to have something like that.
Oh
But
my god, like a pup cup size almost.
yes, that's what I thought. But I love it. Yeah, it's important to hydrate. That's definitely something I definitely have to work on because when you get busy, it's so hard to find time. But I will.
Absolutely. We got the hydrate and the nice treat.
Yes.
Balance.
Yes, it's all about balance. Well, I would love to learn about, any sort of specific story that you had that really was life changing or impactful. That whether it was an impact you were able to make or someone that had an impact on you, from choosing health to confidence.
Absolutely. So for choosing health, I'll start there and then I'll give some confidence examples. Because I'm so passionate about health and I want to dive into the mental health aspect because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think the biggest thing you can do to help anyone with mental health is be that space to listen to them and support them. And I have the privilege as a counselor. I have people who, I'm a complete stranger to them. And I acknowledge that. I'm like, I know you met me 10 minutes ago, but what's going on? What brought you here? And it's the most beautiful thing because by creating a space where they know it's non judgmental, whatever they tell me, I'm not going to be shocked. I'm not going to be surprised. I'm not going to have any negative thoughts or feelings towards them. And I have clients then knowing it's a safe space, they'll say, oh my gosh, that's the first time I've ever told anyone this. And they get to take this weight off of their shoulders. And so many people, and I know I have family members who are guilty of this. It's Mother's Day. So, Mom, happy Mother's Day if you come back and watch this. We've had these conversations because she wants to help so much. So her goal is I have to solve everyone's problems. And that makes us feel helpless because there are so many problems we can't solve in the moment.
Yep.
But if we can shift our mentality, do we have to solve and fix all of our friends, family, loved ones' problems, our own problems too? Let's just be there and support them through the problems. So that's my biggest advice. I get to do that as a counselor, and just my clients, I can't fix their problems. But just by knowing they can give their issues and put them out in the open air, get it out of their head, that's what we call catharsis. And it usually feels so much better. You feel so much lighter and knowing you're not alone in it. So if you can do that for somebody else this month and every month, or other people that you can go to and identify, I feel safe when I'm with this person. I don't feel judged. That's powerful. But to tack on to that, I am going to add a great practice that I wish everyone would ask is, do you have the capacity right now for me to share this with you? Because oftentimes we can end up being that person who we're sacrificing our own mental health at the
Yep.
expense of trying to help everybody else. And I know a lot of my ladies, especially, can relate to this because I work with a lot of people pleasing women, and I say I am a recovering people pleaser. But you can truly change a life and make such an impact by just being there to be that person and be that safe space. So that's a small life-changing thing that we can do with health is truly just being available non-judgmentally and being present with people. Listen to listen and understand, not just to respond and try to help them, or say, well, it's not that bad. Someone has it worse. That one usually never helps. I don't recommend that one. Um, but as far as confidence, the thing that has been the most impactful for confidence has been Miss America impacting me. But because of that, I decided that I wanted to give back in a different way. And I started a group called the Butterfly Effect Program. And I share this not to just shamelessly plug that group that I created, but instead to talk about how we as women especially can uplift other women. And the purpose of this group, it's called the Butterfly Effect, because when you help someone, that advice and knowledge continues to go along like a domino effect. And when I first started this group, I wanted it not just to be in Indiana, where I'm located. I took it nationwide, and I started working with this girl in Kansas City, Missouri, and she was talking about all of these negative thoughts she had about herself. And it was her first time competing, and she really wanted to compete for Miss Missouri's teen. And instead of just going to do mock interview questions and look at her walks, we actually talked about her mindset and things. And that's where the confidence and feeling like you can walk into a room and own it comes out, because she didn't feel that way. And her service initiative was actually about social anxiety. And she shared with me, she struggled so deeply with social anxiety that, like, at parties, she would have to leave and go to the bathroom, or she wouldn't even go because she just felt like everyone was staring at her, everyone was judging her, and she found she made herself smaller in those spaces, which is a key thing we'll talk about today. If you pay attention to your body, you might notice the spaces where you make yourself smaller, you cross your legs, your eyes are looking down. Not only does that convey to other people that we don't feel confident, but that's how we can also be aware of, this is how my body's feeling in this moment. This is what my body is communicating with me. And I noticed that with her. When I first started working with her, she spoke very, very quickly because she didn't feel like she could take up space, and she felt she just had to get everything out. And I used to be guilty of that too, because it's scary to take up space sometimes. And we also then went through all of her negative thoughts, like, I'm not good enough. I will never be able to have this title. I'm not doing enough. And we started to write all of those out. So you can see at first we have this really self-deprecating negative mindset, which we all know we are our biggest critic, right? I'm
Yep.
sure you've experienced that too. And we rolled with that though. So we challenged it and we said, I want you to write those all out on a piece of paper. And then I want you to challenge it with evidence. So if anyone is argumentative, this is great. I say it's like going to court with your thoughts. So if the thought is, I'm not good enough, we ask, is that a fact or an opinion? And we know it's an opinion. Our brains can logically tell us that. But then we also start to weigh evidence of, well, this is evidence that I am enough. Just by being a human, I'm a great sister, I'm a great daughter, I try my best every day. And we started writing those thoughts out. And every day she put these on her board so she could see them. And every time these negative thoughts came up, she would challenge them. And that's how she became more confident. Over time, then, we talked about things like body language as she started to believe it. And she started to be bigger in herself. She started to slow down. She wasn't afraid of silence and a pause. And she was able to begin commanding spaces. And that's one of many ways that we can do this. And it wasn't just that one trick that did it, right? It's consistency, just like with healthy behaviors. But if we can consistently challenge the negative thoughts and we can put in positive routines, it can be really powerful. And we definitely need to take the mind body approach. So mentally, we challenge the thoughts in our head, but physically, how do we change our bodies? And this is really silly, but I'm a research junkie, Honey. So I want you to sit and like cross your arms and like have your head kind of down, maybe even cross your legs. Like, how do you feel when you do that? Do you feel confident? Do you look confident? Or is it just,
No. Very
yeah,
closed off and scared. Like, this is not something you would do if you
yeah,
want to project yourself as someone who's confident, right?
absolutely. And if you saw me like that, either you think I'm intimidating, I'm scared, I don't like you. Like our
Yeah.
thoughts run rampant when that happens and we see someone like
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So I do this activity with a lot of pageant women, and we stand in what's called a power pose. So like we put our hands on our hips and we make ourselves nice and big. The wind is really helping with this in the moment.
Yes.
But we make ourselves big. And there's actually a study. This is the research junkie in me. And they had people stand with their hands on hips for 2 minutes. And that sounds so silly, but after 2 minutes, their hormone levels actually change just by standing in a power pose. And we have this nasty little hormone called cortisol. It's a stress hormone. And they saw that that decreased dramatically after people stood like that in that powerful position. So
Wow.
if you were at a pageant with me at Miss Indiana, you would see me and the pageant girls backstage. I have like 5 or 6 who join me, and we stand in our power pose.
Yeah.
And we just talk to each other and have conversations. Because if anyone watching this has been in a pageant setting, oftentimes we're back there and we're like sitting down trying to think, how am I going to say this? What have I memorized? And we're all in our head making ourselves smaller. And instead, we get tall, we get big. And if you're working with little kiddos, maybe not pageant people, my favorite thing ever is Simon Says with power poses. I call myself the power pose grandmaster. And we have a great time. And I'll say, hands on hips, or Simon says hands on hips, and I say hit a high power pose, hit a low power pose, cross your arms, and the kids have a competitive blast with it. But simultaneously, they learn the power of body language to change our presence. So that's one strategy for commanding a room based on just this story of this wonderful girl I got to work with. And after a year, she ended up placing in top 10 her first time, which was just phenomenal. But not only that, she felt confident and she looked posed and you wanted to listen to her. I might be biased, but I think she had one of the best onstage question answers too because she was confident.
That's amazing. That's such a wonderful story and such cool exercises. I will definitely be practicing that before,
Yes.
any presentation or, any room I walk into, they will see me doing a power pose now. So thank you for sharing that.
I love it. I adore the power poses. And I'm
Yes.
happy to drop a few other strategies if that's the direction we want, or we can wait till later. It is your show. I am just living in.
Yes. I love it. I think, as you mentioned, confidence is something that's super big. So we could definitely dive into that first, because that's really at the core of, I guess, owning a room, or, the psychology, like you mentioned, is really feeling confident within yourself to project that onto others and to feel like the best version of yourself. And I know there's this one quote that it's like, some people are born great, some people achieve greatness, some people have greatness thrust upon them, I believe is the quote. And I think confidence can work somewhat similarly. Some people are born very extroverted or introverted, or it takes time to develop. So I would love to learn about your personal story of, I guess, how you developed confidence, if that's something that you had from a young age or something that took a lot of time, and kind of that journey for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I can think about younger Kayla when I was very, very little. I was this ball of energy. I remember I would watch like The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, and I was like, London Tipton, here's my scarf, all the things. And I was that way very, very young. So there was this element of that was within me. But I mentioned when I had gotten really sick then after around fifth grade time period. And I had endured a lot of hardship and trauma as a child. I grew up with an abusive father, and all of that just took away my confidence. And I was essentially told to keep quiet, that my voice didn't matter. And I really started to believe that. So I went from this girl who was really just happy and full of joy to this person who was just a shell of herself. So I know what it's like to experience both dimensions, both ends of that spectrum. And in those moments, as I got back to school, as my mom left my abusive father, that didn't just go away immediately. That became essentially who I was in those moments as I was in middle school and high school. And it was hard for me to speak up for myself. In classes, I couldn't even raise my hand. I knew the answers, but I was terrified. I would, and I'm sure some of y'all can relate to this, if we were reading aloud popcorn style or around the room, I would read the paragraphs ahead and count out when I was going to be next because I just had such debilitating social anxiety and such a poor sense of self. I constantly compared myself to others and said I wasn't good enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't smart enough, you name it. So all of that really negatively impacted me. And the turning point happened when I got into cheerleading in Miss America. And I know both of those things have all the stereotypes. I don't know why those are the two areas I picked, but I went that way. And both of them do encourage you to be a leader. And cheerleading, I wanted to go in because I just loved the flipping around and all of those things. It reminded me of younger Kayla, who was just a ball of energy and would flip myself around. So I joined it for that reason, but unfortunately, it did have some negative consequences too. Girls weren't always the nicest, as they aren't in general in high school sometimes. And I developed an eating disorder from it. So again, it put me at an even lower and lower point. I was called really terrible names, was told I was heavy, all of these things that were unnecessary. So that again added to the low. I stopped talking. When you are struggling with something like that, it isolates you because you feel ashamed. And from that point, my mom started to see that I just wasn't Kayla anymore. And it came to the point where she tried everything. She made me take a public speaking class. She would try to talk to me. She got me back in therapy again. And the turning point was Miss America, which I was so against at first. Like, let me tell you, I was like, absolutely not. Like, I've seen movies. Pageant girls are mean. I was like, I am not doing that. And she was like, Kayla, if you want to be successful, because mind you, at this time, I wanted to open a gym. You got to talk to people if you want to open a gym and be an entrepreneur. And she said, you have to learn to communicate if you want to be successful. You have to learn to be confident and true to yourself. So from that moment, it was forcing, it wasn't encouraging, it was forcing me into my first pageant. And I was terrified. When I went into that interview room, I was shaking. I thought I had to say everything right and say everything perfectly for me to be accepted in these spaces. And I was going to avoid all the girls because I thought they were going to tear up my wardrobe. I was terrified. So I just was closed off, did not embrace the sisterhood until my talent outfit ripped in the back. And the girls put together little hair ties to help me make my talent outfit work. And I saw girls giving each other gowns backstage. And I saw empowerment for the first time, like true feminism and empowerment that even though we're competing, quote unquote, in society's term, women should be lifting each other up. And knowing that I was in a space that allowed this sense of uplifting others, that already brought some confidence. I could lean into support, which leaning into social support was one of the biggest things that helped me develop confidence. I'm a firm believer, I'll add a different quote because I love quotes too, that you are a combination of the people you surround yourself with. And by surrounding yourself with confident and empowered people who have similar values and what you aspire to be, that alone transforms you and the way you view yourself. So that was one really big step there. But by continuing to compete in pageants then, because I recognized each time something got better. Was I perfect? By no means. I've made every mistake in the book and it's a learning curve. But being outside of your comfort zone, here's my comfort zone. This is where growth happens out here. And we have to take those small steps. And each time I did. So if you can encourage yourself to think about, we call it gradual exposure in therapy terms. Think about the scariest thing that you want to do. That's probably your level 5, right? I'm not going to throw you in the deep end. Maybe you don't do that. That could actually be traumatizing. But that's your level 5. So my level 5 would have been if you put me at that time.
Oh, I don't think I can hear you. Let me see. I cannot. Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay,
Okay, came back.
perfect. I had a screen time limit, so I apologize.
Got you. All good. Me too.
Another element of hashtag true self. Um,
Love that.
but a level 5 for me back then would have been if you put me in front of like the whole school and I had to go up on a stage and speak in front of them.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, in front of all of my peers, that's terrifying, right? So I could not have done that at the time. That was scary. But a level 1 would have been, okay, let me just raise my hand in class.
Mhm.
Let me say hi to someone new. And then a level 2 might be, let me go ahead and I'm going to give a presentation. Level 3 is, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make friends with someone brand new. Like, I'm actually going to ask them for their number, all of this. I'm going to ask them to hang out. And we build up to it. So if you can start building up to it and expose yourself, the level 1 becomes natural. We get to do a level 2. And now, fast forward, 8 years later since I first started, getting up on a stage maybe a level 1 or 2 for me now. So it's beautiful how gradual exposure of getting outside of your comfort zone with calming skills. So maybe you need power poses and deep breaths, things to calm yourself. That can be really powerful. So I would say it was truly the combination of social support and getting outside of my comfort zone. And then when I got a degree in sport, exercise, and performance psychology, that's when I learned all of these extra tips to really go above and beyond and help me feel like I can captivate people. I can tell stories. I can regulate my emotions and my energy levels in the moment. So I feel like that's kind of a long-winded story, if I can take you along in my life, of how I got to where I'm at with being confident and knowing I can walk into any space not knowing what I'm going to expect. A great example, this past Friday, 2 days ago, I wanted to talk to kiddos in a school because I just love kiddos. And I told them all the things that I could do, and they're like, great, you're going to talk to 100 fourth graders. And they gave me no guidelines of what they
Wow.
wanted. And I'm like, well, I don't want to disappoint these teachers and these kids. And I just came in with 3 or 4 different ideas. I felt the vibe of the room and I just went with it. It's not something I had to rehearse at all because you get to a point where you are just so confident with your message when you're speaking truly from yourself and when you're trying to help people. Which I guess that'll lead to my final point and then I'll stop yapping. Um, the final point there is don't think of it as other people are judging you or you're trying to perform for other people because that's one of the most difficult things. And if you think about job interviews or even a pageant interview, if you have a pageant following on here, a lot of us think of it as a quote unquote interview. And I'm curious, what do you think of when I say the word interview? Like, are there feelings your body gets or does your mind have any thoughts when I say interview?
I think for me, first of all, amazing. So far, I've loved getting to hear all the strategies and can't wait to listen to so many more. But for interview, I feel like for me, I think about there's fear that comes up because I think fear that comes up is because you care. You don't want to come across as, like someone who's unprepared for it, or, you want to come across as somebody who they like. It's kind of that people pleaser mindset, like you said. So there is a little bit of excitement for me because I love talking to people, but definitely the fear is always there.
Yes, and that's something like we feel that fear in our
Yes.
head. I don't know about you, but I like my heart races. I told you I used to shake so badly. And it's because it was that people pleasing sense of
Yep.
I have to show up and I have to be what they want. I have to impress them and try to be perfect here. And there's a lot of pressure when we
Yeah.
think about an interview. I think pressure and fear, like you nailed it, girl. Like that is the feeling that comes to
Yeah.
mind for so many people. But if we can shift it to this is a conversation where I'm helping people, that is so incredible. There was this women's virtual conference. I wish I remembered the name of it, but shout out to this women's virtual conference. And the speaker talked about instead of trying to not mess up while you're sharing a message to other people, especially on a big stage, think about you are talking to someone and you are helping them right now with this message that you're giving them. And when we're thinking about helping people and just having a conversation, like right now, I'm not stressed because I'm just having a conversation with you. It's
Yeah.
fun. So when we think about it in those terms, no matter how many people, if it's one on one or it is an audience of 500 people, if you think about it as a conversation and connection and you are helping people, it takes off so much pressure and so much fear. And I think that's really key because when we have pressure and fear, I don't know about you, but are you worried about like don't mess up? Because when I have pressure and fear, that's my worry. Don't
Yep.
mess up. And I'm gonna relate this to sports if anyone likes sports, because I'm also a sports girly. If you work with a gymnast, I've worked extensively with collegiate gymnastics. And if you work with a gymnast and they're on a balance beam, let's say, so you're picturing this tiny beam, right? Like your biggest fear is you're gonna fall off that beam. And if you are up on that beam and you're thinking, don't fall, don't mess up, don't mess up, scientifically, your brain and your attention is now thinking about falling and messing up. Even though you're wanting that not to happen, we are thinking about the two things we don't want to happen. And our attention and energy are focused on that. And where attention goes, our energy flows, and that's usually what actually happens. So, scientifically, if you're thinking about what you don't want to happen, it's likely going to happen. And that's not just sports, that's performance when we're speaking to people, whether it be in a pageant space, an interview. If it's, I don't want to mess up, I don't want to freeze, I'm so afraid that I'm just going to blank. We're now thinking about that as opposed to putting our energy into connecting, putting our energy into the stories we want to convey and tell, and the feeling we want the person to experience as we talk with them. And I say that because I think we all find ourselves guilty of that sometimes. Even now, I do. I'll be telling a story, and our brains will always have those moments where we blank, right? And you forget this word. And in that moment, you can focus to, let me go back to the message and what am I trying to convey? And how can I continue to try to find something to help this person? Or it can be, oh my gosh, Kayla, don't blank, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And then I'm never going to find that original train of thought. So I really think that's such a powerful message. And if you can go into your next conversation, your next presentation at work or school or your next pageant, saying, I want to help someone, I want to connect with them. We're going to have a conversation. And my butterfly effect girls who I mentor, they know we're not doing interviews. We are doing conversations. So that's kind of a great strategy that I hope can help somebody who's listening today because I know it has just moved mountains for me.
Absolutely. That is so inspirational and so inspiring because I think it takes that focus, right, and that shift away from, all the stress and the pressure to something that we enjoy doing, which is conversing and talking with people. And for me too, growing up, I had social anxiety. I would not talk to people. And also 8 years ago when I started pageantry, that is also sort of the shift that happened over the years where you're not trying to worry about what other people think, but you're really letting yourself shine and express and building yourself up along the way. So I love that. And I think it's so important to hear stories like that because, of course, it's not linear. It's not going to be something that happens immediately, but it takes a lot of time and effort. And if you keep working at it, it'll happen. Sure.
Yes, it's never linear. Yes, absolutely. And I love that we're also kind of like pageant anniversary twinsies starting 8 years.
I know, that's so cool.
And
Yes. I
those are
think
the
that's
things.
so fun.
Sorry, girl. I was
No,
going
go
to say,
ahead.
those are the things you find when right now, like you're just focused on connecting and I'm just focused on connecting and talking with you, as opposed to like if you or I were in our head, like, what is the next thing I memorize that I'm going to say, or the next stat I'm going to throw out there? Like, we wouldn't catch those things and we
Mhm.
wouldn't get to connect on those things. And that's
Yeah.
why I think that's so beautiful. So I
Mhm.
love that we have our small
I
connection
know.
point.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And one of the things you mentioned was when you talked to like 100, was it kindergartners? 100
Fourth graders.
fourth graders. Still, it's a definitely different dynamic for sure. And you mentioned how you kind of read the room and kind of chose your strategy based on that. So I know you had a lot of strategies to share, so I'd love to talk about, from then and any other strategies you have for, I guess, walking into a room with confidence and reading the room and knowing exactly how to connect with that audience.
Absolutely. And a lot of it truly is the way you walk in. So I'm happy you said those words because that really conveys how people perceive us, which I wish the human brain doesn't make judgments so quickly, but it does. And most first impressions happen within anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds.
Yep.
So we get a really quick idea of how we feel about people. And if I walk in, and let's say I go into this classroom and I look like I am not confident, I'm scared, I'm terrified, I'm going to quick get that energy back from everyone else. And likely they're going to feel silent or it's going to feel uncomfortable for them. And they're not going to want to engage with me authentically. So being able to walk in, whether it's a classroom of fourth graders, first graders, you're with a bunch of, business people,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. It's how you walk in. And you want to think about walking in the way that you would like to receive other people oftentimes. So if I'm thinking about how I would like to receive everyone else in that space, how can I present myself that way? And my science brain is going to throw a little bit more at you, but I promise it's simple. Um, we have something called mirror neurons. So think about how you look in a mirror. We have mirror neurons. It's essentially why when somebody else yawns, we often yawn back. That's
Yes.
mirror neurons working. And it's not just for yawning though. So think about when you have someone who comes up to you and they are super energetic. I can tell you my office coworker who's right next to me, her name is Gina. Shout out Gina. She is just a ray of sunshine. And every time she sees me, she's like, "Oh my goodness, hello, Kayla. You look so beautiful. How are you doing?" In response to her, do you think that I'm gonna be like very low energy and be like, "Hey, Gina, what's up?" Like, that's
No.
usually not how it goes because my mirror neurons now say she's safe. I can be energetic. That is truly reading the room, and we can then bring that energy to the room because we know spaces work that way. So let's say I'm gonna talk to our pageant girlies again, or someone who's going into a job interview. I don't know about you, but I despise when judges are like straight faced and they show no emotion because that's
Yeah.
scary. And I used to go with the mentality of they set the tone for the space. I don't know if you've ever worked with kiddos too who are like fifth or sixth graders. Sometimes they can be scary too.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
so you can walk in and think everybody else is going to guide the way the room feels, but you can read the room and then say, how can I bring my energy to the room to get the energy I want in this room? So oftentimes I walk in, and if it's a professional setting, I say, I'm going to be professional in the way I stand, very open, very powerful, but I want to bring energy. So I already walk in with a smile. Instead of shoulders forward and looking down, shoulders are up and I'm looking at their eyes. And a great strategy that excellent speakers and connectors use is let me try to see their eye color. It looks like you have brown eyes as I'm talking to you. And instead of worried about, oh my gosh, eye contact feels awkward, it's, wow, what beautiful eyes. And this is the color. My attention is not focused on the awkwardness and the fear of it. It's focused on the eye color. And now I remember that about them.
Yep.
So that can be a really powerful strategy. As I walk in the room, you already know I do the hands on hips, power to the
That.
floor. I take my deep breaths because oftentimes we call it in psychology arousal levels get so high that we walk in and it doesn't matter what anyone else's energy is. We're going to continue to be really fast and we're going to continue to freak out and be anxious. But if we can walk in, regulate our emotions, we can then mirror other people's energies or bring them to the energy state we want to be in because the mirror neurons go both ways here. So
Yep.
with kiddos, I walked in and I wanted to be fun. So I could have just sat there while the teacher was organizing some things and just sat there in silence. That probably wouldn't have been fun for anyone. It would have set a vibe of this is going to be kind of boring and serious.
Mhm.
Not that serious always has to be boring, but
Yeah.
not talking to kiddos sounds boring for a bunch of fourth graders. So instead, I sat in there and I was like, oh, what subjects are you all in? Like, what are you all up to this morning? Oh my goodness, what's your favorite subject? And they all happened to say like math, and they were in English. So the teacher was like, well, that's offensive, y'all. So we started laughing and making jokes out of it. And that's the energy we bring to it. I started asking questions about them because oftentimes when we get nervous, we're thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about, do I look this way? What are they thinking about me? And if we can ask questions about other people, we bring it from me to us, from me to you in the room. So I asked, what are your favorite other subjects? What are your favorite sports and activities? Because someone said recess was their favorite activity at school. So we branched out. And that really started to guide us in a helpful direction. And you saw that humor was in there, and you saw that asking people about themselves was in there. All of that is going to create this environment. And while I was doing it, I was confident in my body language. I was confident in my speech. You didn't see me fidgeting, even though sometimes, fidgeting is just normal. If I'm going to fidget, I did it in like a very casual, small way that's not projecting I'm nervous and anxious. And because of that, because of our mirror neurons, I received that back from the classroom, from the teachers. And it was a great dynamic. So you can use that to command any space. If you're going into a space where maybe it's less fun and less jokes, you walk in and you're professional. It's the way you speak. It might be a good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing today? We're going to talk about this, and this is our guideline for today's meeting. As opposed to, well, hi, everybody. I am so excited. Let's get talking. What's going on today? Tell me about what you've done this morning and how I can help you. Two different vibes, but I control the dynamic. As opposed to I walk in and I'm kind of scared and nervous. Or, yeah, we can go that direction. I guess I can talk. That projects fear. I even saw your reaction to me saying that change. You're like, ooh. Um, so that's really powerful. That's one of my biggest strategies is rely on the mirror neurons. Know that you set the tone for every conversation. And if somebody isn't picking up on that tone, that's okay. We can also read their body language and say, they just might not pick up on the energy, and that's okay. We don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. I say you can be the juiciest peach in the world, and somebody's still going to hate peaches, and that's okay. So you bring the energy, but if your energy isn't reciprocated, that's fine. Um, we accept that. We know that not everyone's going to want to be with us, just like we don't want to be best friends with every single person in the world. We have different personalities and energies. So if we can come with that acceptance, but no, without expecting that, we can accept if it happens, but we expect to walk into the room and connect. And that's so, so powerful. So expect success.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. So beautiful and so many incredible strategies. I mean, from verbal cues, like you said, of matching energy, but also those nonverbals of standing up straight and also being welcoming. I think all of that really has the power to own the room and the power to walk in and set the tone for the entire conversation or presentation, whatever it might be. So thank you so much for sharing. That was awesome.
Yeah, so I'm happy it feels helpful. And I love that you said
Yeah.
nonverbals because I think we often get so caught up in what am I going to say?
Yep.
And the content of your communication, everyone reports different stats out there, but we'll just give a range based on all the different stats and research. They usually say that's about, maybe 10 to 50% of conversation, which in our heads, we often think that's like the whole thing, right? But in reality, what actually makes it up is often the nonverbals or what we call like paralanguage. It's how we say the things we say.
Yep.
And one of the things that often negates connection is the closed off body language. It's being very monotone in our phrases where people can't pick up, they can't get your energy, and it makes people confused. It also can make people feel really incongruent around you. So if you're talking about something that's exciting, but I don't sound very excited, people get very confused. That's incongruent. Our brains don't like that.
I
It's like,
know. Yeah.
yes, it's like I'm a counselor. So if I'm talking about something really sad and depressing, but I'm like, oh my goodness, so this happened to me and I was out of school for a year and a half and, I was just struggling with all of this childhood trauma. Like, you're going to be like, this doesn't feel
Yeah.
right. So making sure that we are paying attention to our tone, the way we talk, how we say things, our volume. That's going to be so incredibly helpful. And if you struggle with that, one of the best tips I ever received, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due, it's from Lydia
Love
Susan and
her.
Eliza. Oh yes, her and Eliza Halal. They run 1822 Studios, and Eliza specifically said, "Breathe in the way that question or that statement makes you feel." So when you're talking to them, not only does it now make you breathe, because we know we have to breathe,
Yep.
our brain works really fast. So if we just take one breath, your brain's going to find the answer. But not only will it find the answer, it's no longer going to be monotone or in a tone that feels incongruent. It's that makes me feel kind of sad. We start to lean into that, a more of a sultry, sad type of tone of, yeah, that was really difficult. I remember I struggled to get out of bed and my chest just felt so heavy and I just wanted to cry all the time. And it was the lowest point I've ever experienced. I started to breathe into that. Or they ask you, why should we get this job? Why should you be the next insert title here? Breathing in how that makes you feel, breathing in what it would be like to hold that position. Then we can say, well, I am confident that I am ready to be the next title holder because I've done X, Y, and Z, and here's my evidence. But it's not just the evidence. Now I show them how it feels to make the impact with the evidence you give them. And that's not just for pageant girlies I'm speaking to, that's for your job too. Why do you deserve this position? Well, let me tell you about my experience with this company and how I improved this and what I've learned. And I'm ready to better this. I can help you. So as we start to lean into how we feel when we're asked these questions, it's so powerful in our communication and it makes us come off much more confident and much more congruent because the last thing people want when they communicate is this feels incongruent and inauthentic. I don't know
Yep.
that I believe, yeah, I don't know that I believe this person is real.
Hmm.
And you can be the most polished and put together person, but you're going to lose the job, you're going to lose the title, you're going to lose the friendship and relationship if you don't seem authentic. And I learned that the
Yep.
hard way. One of my biggest pet peeves is that, we don't always get feedback from interviews. And I say that as a
Yes.
pet peeve because when you love something, you want to improve it. And I love Miss America. I love pageant systems. And I think the key to improve it is giving feedback. Not everything everyone's thinking, but helpful, constructive feedback. And I say that because when I first started competing pageants, I thought I had to be the most professional, perfect, polished human. And that was so wrong. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, why I would never win an interview award, why I was, not even getting runner up sometime. And I found out it's because I wasn't personable. I was too quote unquote perfect. And I had a director eventually tell me, like, Kayla, people don't connect to perfect. Like, they see perfect and it's intimidating and it's scary and they're not perfect. We all know we're not
Yep.
perfect. So when we see that, it feels icky and it feels fake because we know perfect doesn't exist.
Yep.
And I had been striving for so long to be this perfect person in communication. And I realized it wasn't about saying the biggest researcher words like, therefore, I learned this about myself and I discovered this about me. That doesn't connect. I learned that I just had to be authentic, fun, Kayla, bring my personality out. And when I did that, that's when I got first runner up at Miss Indiana. All the years before, that was the biggest prohibitor is I didn't connect with people. And one of the biggest losses I had was I made it to one of the final rounds to work with the Arizona Diamondbacks as a mental performance consultant. I was ecstatic. Like that was the dream.
Wow.
And the reason I didn't make it, Ani, the reason they told me I did not get it, it hurt so bad at the moment, but they were so right. I was too professional. And at first it felt like a dagger right to the heart. I was like, what do you mean? It's a job interview. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be professional. Like it's a pageant. I'm supposed to be professional. And and that moment I was so hurt. But that was the pivotal turning point where I realized you can simultaneously be professional, but also be this very personable, congruent, authentic human. Because at the end of the day, authenticity and connection wins.
Yep.
We need professionalism, we need education, you need to be prepared, but the authenticity is what is going to get you the crown, it's going to get you the job, it's going to get you your dream partner, whatever it is you want. That's the key. So I feel like I could talk all day about these strategies and I am yapping,
I
but
love
hopefully that was
it.
helpful.
Yes, so many good things packed in there. I think, a lot of people struggle to just take a deep breath and feel what they want to feel, because sometimes painting a picture of, people always say, right, paint a picture of what you want to do, whether it's like in writing or whether you're talking, because that not only helps them see your vision, but also it helps you to feel that vision. And so that is so impactful. And I think something that so many people definitely need to hear.
I'm so happy that helps. I think that's, that's the butterfly effect in itself. Like I
Yes.
received that incredible advice from Lydia and Eliza, and I get to pass it on to your incredible audience. And for all of these people who continue to share that message, that's
Yes.
what it's about. And that's how we all show up better and more confident. And I genuinely wish there was a class in high school that talked about these things and genuinely taught
Yes.
these strategies. Because in high school, they're like, have to be perfect, get A's, etc. And then you get in the real world and you're like, but they're getting jobs and positions and they don't do well in school. They just connect well.
Yes.
And when you can put those two together, a hardworking woman, and I see this in you, a hardworking woman, but someone who can also connect well. That is like the key to success right there. And I wish that every person not only knew that, but they knew the strategies to get there, because everyone would just say, well, Kayla, slow down, be concise, and connect. That's really hard. Or they just say, take a pause. But when they tell you stuff like that, it makes it connect and it makes it so much more practical to implement. And that's what I want for everyone. It has to be practical and realistic to implement 100%.
Yes, for sure. And I remember, I feel like, you take all of those strategies and not just saying it, but you also really live through every single thing that you say. I remember, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, at Miss Indiana. I've been like watching like every year. I love getting to support and see everyone. But you had broken your foot or your ankle or something. Um,
My lovely knee,
You're
she's right
me,
here.
and you were still so vibrant, full of energy. I mean, you did not let that get to you. And I just found that so inspiring, because so many people would just back down. They would not feel like they can do it. They would just be like, okay, what's the point of going on stage or performing? But you just went there and you continued to stay confident in who you are. And so I think it's so, so incredible that you're able to do that, because it's definitely not easy.
Girl, you just warmed my heart so much. And it always brings up so many memories because
Yeah.
that moment right there, people on the outside could look at that and say, that's terrible. Like that probably wrecked her confidence. For those of you listening, I'm a cheerleader, gymnast, and that's my talent in Miss America. And I tore my ACL and meniscus on the Miss Indiana stage last year. And in that moment, I was, bawling backstage. My mom actually came up to me and she's like, Kayla, are you crying because it hurts or because you're not going to win Miss Indiana? And I was like, because I'm not going to win, mom. And in that moment, I felt the feels, and you have to feel your feels, whether it's, the fear we talked about before interview, we have to acknowledge it because repressing is, this is counselor Kayla, repressing is never the answer, but you feel it. And then after that, I got out of this mentality of this is over, I failed, I can't do this, because that's where your brain immediately goes. We call it catastrophization. Try
Yep.
pronouncing that one 10 times fast. My clients love that term. We're like, the catastrophe thing. Um, but our brain catastrophizes and says this is over. And in pageants and job interviews, there's that pressure of it feels like this is your one opportunity. And that night, I decided no, it's not over. I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and I'm going to change my talent. Do I know if I'm going to get top 10? No, I don't know. But I'm going to change my talent and I'm going to think of something. And let me tell you, I have never done a her story or a spoken word. I've never had one of the lavalier things on it.
Yep.
I was petrified. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. I was sitting at a Panera like an hour before the show, like leg up, icing, and like practicing the speech. And I was terrified. I was fearful that I was going to forget the words. I got called for top 10 and I was, so beyond blessed. But I went backstage and I was practicing with one of my friends, and I turned the music on to practice this her story before doing it for the first time on stage. And I
Wow.
just blanked. I blanked. I just stood there and I was like, oh my gosh, Darby, like I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'm gonna mess up. Like I'm gonna forget in front of everyone. And I took a deep breath. I practiced all the like all the strategies that I'm sharing with you, like tried and true. I used these. I sat in a power pose. I didn't talk about visualization yet, but I closed my eyes and I pictured myself out there doing it. And I pictured myself out sharing it to people. And I pictured we have rising stars. They're like our princesses,
Yes.
essentially. And I pictured getting to like be that person and share that with my rising stars because I knew they were sad. Like the night that it happened, they were all getting ready to do their dance. They passed me in the hallway. So all these girls were like tearing up as I'm like on the floor, like crying, like they're looking at my knee. And I just wanted to show them that, you know, life doesn't always work out the way we planned. And that's what motivated me. So I'm adding more strategies, having
I love
visualization and a
it.
strong why, that got me out on that stage. And I was petrified. But I walked out there and I said, this is my why. I'm helping these little girls. And that's what younger Kayla would have needed. And that why was strong enough to let me just be in the moment, be authentic, and convey a really vulnerable message that I shared in that her story. And what I could have initially saw as a failure of, you know, I tore my ACL. I didn't win Miss Indiana. I didn't make top 5 that year after being first runner up the year before. Like, objectively, we could say all of that is, you know, not good enough. We failed. But I walked away, and that was the most confident I had ever been. I never, especially younger Kayla, would have expected I could just go out there and learn a new talent overnight, that I could be confident, that I could convey a message. And when you start to look at your life that way, it is really powerful. You see how far you've come and how much you've grown. And after the show, I had my little rising stars like crying for me, and they're like, Kayla, you didn't win. And I was like, yeah, but this is more important than winning. Like, this is showing you how you respond when things don't go the way you want and knowing you're still successful. Because, as you all know, there's one crown, there's, you know, usually one job people interview for. And I'm just happy that you could see those skills come out on a stage because that's what I want everyone to be able to get and take away. Because whether it's pageants, whether it's the job interview, life doesn't always work out, but you just got to show up and be so confident, like have an unshakable sense of self that you know you can do it. And you know that even if you don't get that outcome, you did it. Like you did the thing and you inspired somebody doing the
Yes,
thing.
yes. And you inspired so many people that night and even today. And, you know, you continue to be inspiring on social media everywhere you go. I think it's so incredible because it's definitely not easy. It takes a lot of, you know, mental battle to get up and keep going. But I think that's what really makes it powerful, like you said. Just keep going and knowing that those strategies will get you through. So thank you so much for sharing about that. I know it was not easy, but it's something that I think I still remember to this day, you know, about it. And I think so many people will find that very, very inspirational as well.
So thank you so much. You are the sweetest. And,
Oh,
you know, that can maybe be my last actual point here because
yes.
what you just did is also a lot of gratitude and appreciation. And it is almost physically impossible to simultaneously be worried, not confident, sad, you know, all those negative affect emotions when you're being gratitude, when you're appreciating. And just what you did there, like it lifts everybody's mood. When you go into an interview and you're thanking them for things, you can't at the same time be fearful and sad.
Yeah.
And that's such a powerful thing. It's thanking even, I have the opportunity to do this. I get to stand here. I have the opportunity to talk with you right now. And all of that boosts confidence. So when we can be thankful for those things rather than worried about them, it's so powerful. Rather than being worried about like, I'm gonna fall. My friend just got her white coat ceremony as a vet. And she's like, Kayla, pray for me I don't fall across this stage. And I was like, no, girl, no. Like instead, like think about how thankful you are that like you're here in this moment, that you know, that you can walk in heels, all these things across the stage. And again, like 9 times out of 10, your performance is going to be so much better because you're not thinking about what's going to go wrong. You're thinking about connecting with people. So if
Absolutely.
I didn't say that word enough, connect with people, be grateful. Like these are all strategies just to connect with people because confidence breeds, it's breeded from connection. I'm a firm believer of that.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful message to end off today. Not just for the youth, but for everybody watching and everybody who will watch this later on, because it is so important to, like you said, connect with people. That is at the heart of every conversation, every opportunity, any experience that you go after. I think that's what makes those experiences worthwhile and so fulfilling. So thank you, Kayla, for coming on and sharing your insight and strategies. It was so nice talking to you finally. I know we always see each other, but never get a chance to like talk and everything. And so thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is so powerful and so lovely. And for everyone who made it to the end, thank you all for joining us. It is really so nice. And I hope I get to see you again at Miss Indiana and
Yes.
lots of other things.
I will, of course, come to support. I cannot wait to see you all rock the stage. And before we exit, I would love for you to let everybody know where they can find you, where they can be a part of your hashtag Choose Health movement, and continue to follow your journey.
Yes, absolutely. So on Instagram, you can find me a few places because, of course, you can never have too much social media. Um, I have an account called Choose Health MAO. So just the word choose, CHOOSE, Health, HEALTHMAO, as in Miss America Opportunity. And then my other account is my title holder account. It is Miss White River. IN as in Indiana. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. If you search Miss White River on Facebook and even Choose Health on Facebook, I'm going to pop right up there for you. And if you're a podcast girly, because I imagine you are if you are watching this, you can also find my Operation Flourish podcast on all major streaming platforms. So love for you to listen to it, join our Operation Flourish fam. And if you'd ever want to be a guest, which I think I might have one right here, if you ever want to be a guest, I'd love to feature you to talk about all things flourishing because this girl up here, she's flourishing.
That's so sweet. I can't wait to check out all of those podcasts. I did not know you do that. That's so amazing. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And it was so wonderful to talk with you. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday.
You too. And happy Mother's Day to all our
Happy
mothers.
Mother's Day. Yes.
Oh, bye,
Bye.
girl.